Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Welcome to this Rest and Worship Saturday. Happy Sabbath to you. So basically we're still on the recaps from the Allegheny East 2020 virtual camp meetings, which is basically like a revival kind of thing. And so they have services every day. Well, it was really, I think it was from like the 27th until today's the last day. And so basically I want to take this time basically to thank the conference president, Pastor Henry J. Fordham III, and his musical staff, the media staff, and everybody that had a part in, and even God, and having a part in making this a wonderful, wonderful experience. And so today, basically, in a camp meeting, the one person that really stood out to me in the presentation that they gave, or the sermon that they gave, was Elder Pete Palmer. Oh my God. I mean, I had heard many sermons I started hearing many sermons today, but when I got into like the beginning of his, I was like, okay, this is what I need. And so basically, his title was Struggling to Unsee. And okay, stand by. If you're visiting for the first time, welcome. If you're a returning visitor, welcome. Please, why don't you take a moment to become a part of our YouTube family by clicking on the word subscribe, which is totally free. A bell will come up. Hit the bell for all. In that way, you'll receive every last one of my new uploads. And also, too, please consider giving me a hand and helping to grow the channel, get this information out there that God is providing us with, to others that may be suffering, especially those suffering in silence, by sharing everywhere with everyone on all social media platforms, and also encouraging subscription as you share. So, all right. So, and so truly, this camping experience has been very uplifting, refreshing, reviving, rejuvenating, okay, and basically pointing us to holiness. So all praises to God for everybody that had a part in doing this. It was an awesome, 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 refreshing experience. So basically, Elder P. Palmer was basically talking about some things we wish that we see, we wish that we didn't see. Some way, he wished that it was some way that we could unsee it. For example, George Floyd, begging for his life with the officer's knee on his neck. Rayshard Brooks being shot in the back. The murder and the death of Ahmaud Aubery. The 75-year-old man who was shoved to the ground by policemen while other policemen watch on, not willing to offer a hand. And then he talked about years ago for Rodney King, okay? Basically, he said that God has made a way for all of these people some 2,000 years ago on the cross, and where it may be hard for us to unsee what we have seen, God offers a remedy. So my title would be a remedy for the killer Satan and killer cops. Okay. And so basically he takes us to the story about Adam and Eve and their sin. And we're basically in Genesis chapter 3, Genesis chapter 2, verses 16 through 17, where God talks to them about not eating from the tree of knowledge. You eat that and you're going to die. Eventually, you're going to die. And so basically after that, things were very, very different for Adam and Eve. And you can imagine that if you've experienced any kind of trauma, or if you had a parent or loved one or caretaker that told you not to do something and you did it anyway, or you found yourself in a place where you should not have been and you were there and should not have been, and things happened to you, The way you saw life was very, very different. So basically, he talked about, once we see evil, good doesn't look the same anymore. Okay. And even though that there may be hundreds of good policemen, okay, just as a result of what one or a few of them have done, that if you're stopped by the police, you'd be wondering whether or not this is your last day, or whether or not this is a cop that would rather be judged by 12 than to be carried by 6. Okay. And so he talked about how, in getting back to, okay, let me go back a little bit. He talked about how evil distorts our vision. Because remember, the title of this encampment is Your Vision, God's Provision. So he talked about how our spiritual, emotional, and intellectual vision can be blurred. Even though our physical vision, we can have 20/20 vision, but still, when it comes to an emotional level, a spiritual level, an intellectual level, we can be distorted. Good doesn't look like good anymore. For a person that's been sexually abused, good touches feels uncomfortable. Whereas if the abuse did not happen, they could kind of like relish in a nice hug or kiss on the cheek or something like that. And so right looks wrong and wrong looks right. Okay. And you don't feel safe. At some point, he talks about that we have to recognize that we are not seeing clearly. Like if we're into particular things where we haven't totally given all of our junk, our trauma, our bad experiences, our wrong choices, if we haven't totally given those things to Christ, he says that basically at some point we need to recognize that we need to. And so basically he talks about how in helping to dissolve for Adam and Eve their situation, that God asks a few questions. Number one, where are you? And in other words, it's like he talked about like how sin, wrongdoing, wrong decisions has a way of separating us from God. Okay. And so basically Adam and Eve was telling God what happened, and it was playing kind of like the blame game. Okay. But still they had to, they was talking about how they were naked, but they were always naked. But now they're not talking about like a physical naked. They're talking about a spiritual naked, because when we're away from God and we're dilly-dallying into sin, there's a different kind of nakedness. And it's not talking about being authentic. Okay, it's talking about feeling dirty, feeling shameful, and all those different things. And the second question he asked was, who told you that? Who told you that? Who told you were naked? And they were hiding from God. Who told you that you were inadequate? Who told you? And some of the things and how sin makes us feel, or trauma makes us feel, or abuse makes us feel not pretty, blame, dirty, shameful, defective. Some of us think that if we get married, that it's no need, that our marriage is destined to fail. And also we feel like we can't accomplish anything. We have bruises and we have wounds, and only God could really restore us. And then he says, in order for Adam and Eve to be overcomers, they had to recognize, they had to tell the truth about what they had eaten. They had eaten the fruit. And so, and same thing with us, in order for us to be restored, we've seen what we've seen. What happened has happened. We can't change that. However, we don't have to continue to walk in that and to cover up our experience with drugs and alcohol and sin and, people pleasing and, gotta dress a certain way and look a certain way because we feel disconnected. We feel shameful. You know, and at some point, like we have to go to the optometrist to get our vision checked, we need to go to Christ to get things corrected. And so basically, Adam and Eve had to go to Christ, and God gave them the clothing, the covering, you know, that represented him. So it's through Christ that the remedy is through Christ. This is all I have for you. I love you. Now unto him that is able to keep you from falling and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy. To the only wise God, our Savior, be glory and majesty, dominion and power, both now and ever. I had a wonderful time. I hope you all did too. I love you. I'll see you in the next YouTube.